Welcome to Friday's Look North. Tonight, locked up, the teenage blackmailer who threatened to blow up G4S security vans unless he was paid £1 million. The Prime Minister defends her record on investment in the Tyne and Wear Metro. Plans to remove remote level crossings on some of our railway lines because of concerns over safety. The ups and downs of the cliff lift at Saltburn. Essential maintenance work on the cards after passengers were trapped. And finding the father he never knew. Now this World War II soldier will be given the recognition he deserves.
In sport, we've been with two managers preparing for big games against their former clubs. And can Whitehaven win Sunday's promotion decider against Cumbrian rivals for the right to play Championship Rugby League next season?
A teenager's been sentenced to 2 years in a young offenders institution after making a series of bomb threats. 19-year-old Daniel Garland triggered a massive security alert in January this year after claiming he planted bombs on a number of G4S vehicles. He said he'd detonate them by remote control if his demands for £1 million weren't met. Well, Jim Knight is live for us at Durham Crown Court, where Garland was sentenced earlier this afternoon. Jim.
Well, yes, Jeff, whilst we may never know what's been going on in Daniel Garland's mind, the one thing we do know tonight is that the moment of madness when he decided to start plotting that terrifying hoax is now going to cost him the next 2 years of his life in a young offenders institution. Handing down the sentence today, Judge Ewan Duff said this was a very serious enterprise. Not spontaneous or trivial, but carefully thought out and planned to make it as realistic as possible. As for Garland himself, in the short hearing today, he appeared by video link and showed very little emotion. His mother, though, was in court and she wept openly as the sentence was passed down. Here's Daniel Garland arriving at an earlier court hearing. When he issued his bomb threat to staff at the G4S depot in Thornaby in January, he sparked a huge security alert, where it was claimed later that almost half of Cleveland Police's officers were rapidly called in to deal with the situation. He'd not only threatened to blow up a number of vehicles, Garland also threatened to storm the G4S depot in Thornaby and eliminate anyone who got in his way. It was, of course, all a terrifying but sorry hoax, and Garland was quickly traced, and police found a copy of his threat letter behind a poster at his home. His motivation for the whole thing, apparently, purely to get two of his colleagues, who he claimed had been bullying him, into trouble. So in the end, it all appears to have been a rather childish and pathetic game of revenge, which rapidly escalated into a massive police incident. And who knows what was going on in Garland's mind, or how he ever imagined that anything positive could come out of it all. Well, he's certainly got time in his cell now to reflect on it all. Jeff.
Indeed. Jim, thanks for that. The Prime Minister has defended her record over the Tyne and Wear Metro after criticism that her government has delayed badly needed investment in the service. Theresa May was speaking after local business organisations backed a bid for a £400 million modernisation of the Metro's ageing rolling stock. Our political editor Richard Moss asked Mrs May why the government had not yet committed to the Metro plans.
Well, we want to see, obviously, a good service on the Tyne and Wear Metro, and it's an important service for local people, and I recognise that. Obviously, the Department of Transport has to look at these issues very carefully, but you can rest assured that we recognise the importance of this issue for local people in the North East.
But it's a fraction that you're going to invest in Crossrail in London. It's a fraction of what HS2 has invested. If it doesn't get it, that Tyne and Wear Metro grinds to a huge impact on the economy. Just get on and give us the money.
Look, first of all, this is a government, we're a government that is investing significant amounts of money in infrastructure around the country, and I want to ensure that we're investing in areas like the North East, because I recognise the importance that these journeys make to local people.
But your government doesn't seem to recognise the difference between North and South divide. The Transport Secretary came up and thought there was no problem. Ask businesses and they think that the North gets a raw deal.
Right. I'm very clear that what we're doing at this party conference is setting out how we build a country that works for everyone. That means a country that works for people across the whole of the United Kingdom, including in the North East.
And you can see a full interview with the Prime Minister on Sunday Politics. That's on BBC One here in the northeastern Cumbria at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. We're back to the Metro, and a man's been jailed for 6 months after racially abusing a Tyne-and-Wear Metro worker. James Lee, who's 23 and from Jarrow, verbally abused and spat at the customer service advisor who approached him to ask him not to drink alcohol. Newcastle Crown Court heard that Lee told the Metro worker he thought he probably had a bomb in his bag because he was black. Passengers applauded when Lee was taken off the train. He pleaded guilty to causing racially aggravated intentional harassment, alarm or distress. British Cycling and 2 race officials have pleaded not guilty to charges relating to the death of a woman from Northumberland who was watching her partner compete in a mountain bike race in Wales. Judith Garrett, who was 29 and from Prudhoe, died after a bike hit her at the Borderline Downhill Series event in August 2014. 2 race officials and the British Cycling Federation faced health and safety charges at Mould Crown Court today. A 4-week trial is expected to take place in June next year. Cleveland police say they're continuing to treat the sudden death of a baby on Teesside yesterday as unexplained. Emergency services were called to a property on Hillside Road in Norton yesterday morning. Medics were unable to save the baby boy. A post-mortem examination didn't establish a cause of death. Further tests will be carried out. A new campaign warning of the dangers of remote level crossings is being launched by Network Rail. 4 in North Yorkshire are to be closed because of safety concerns. One has been removed 3 years after a man died there. Well, Network Rail says it wants to take away other similar crossings, as Phil Connell reports.
Fenced off and closed, the rail crossing at Scampston near Malton, where 3 years ago a farmer was killed when his vehicle was hit by an oncoming train. At the time of the accident, concerns were raised about the safety of these so-called private crossings, and today villagers here welcomed the decision to have it closed.
You have to open the gate yourself and then judge a train and then close it again. I think it was an accident waiting to happen.
I think it should have been closed a long time ago because it's not safe. You can't see, the track curves slightly.
On the line where the accident happened between York and Scarborough, there are 76 crossings, and 43 of those are still for private use. Last year, these user-operated gates accounted for more than 1,500 incidents of misuse, a rise of 331 on the previous year. The increase in incidents has now led Network Rail to launch a new campaign of safety. As well as the crossing here at Scampston being closed, there are now plans to close 3 similar gates in other parts of the county.
The train driver at this location, for instance, will be going at 70 miles an hour, and they don't really have much time to react. So it's important that we get the message, the education across to authorised users to use the crossings correctly.
But with many other private crossings still in use, Network Rail has now joined forces with the National Farmers Union, urging those who live and work in these rural communities to be extra cautious. Phil Connell, BBC Look North, Scampston.
Staying in North Yorkshire, the lift that takes visitors up and down the cliffs in Saltburn is to close for essential maintenance work. It normally stops running during the winter season, but the shutdown from next Thursday is taking place 3 weeks early this year to allow the work to get underway. It follows a number of recent stoppages which have left passengers trapped. Our business correspondent Ian Reeve has the story.
Known as Saltburn's Cliff Lift, it is more properly an inclined tramway. And since 1884, it's taken tourists up and down the 71% incline at this seaside town. But the job, and 150,000 users a year, have taken their toll, so maintenance beckons.
What I've seen in recent years has been an increase in the stoppages, and this is really concerning. And so it's necessary that we've got to look at the mechanical pressures that we're putting on the cliff lift and to do something about that now.
Right, how many have we got, please? Two. That's 2 adults, that's £2, please.
Trevor is the lift's operator, a former Teesside steelworker and entranced by this piece of water-balanced Victorian engineering.
We have the 2 cars, which each have a water tank, Both will hold 1,500 litres of water. We fill one of the cars at the top of the hill with water, and that will then pull the bottom car up to the top of the hill, and then we repeat the system.
And visitors find the lift equally charming.
We get people from all over the world actually visiting the tram, you know, New Zealand. I was talking to somebody from New Zealand last week, Australia, Brazil the other day. It's really popular.
The lift was last refurbished in 2010. The promise now is that after its last rides next Thursday, it will be ready to go again by Easter. Ian Reeve, BBC Look North, Saltburn.
Looks great, doesn't it? You're watching Friday's Look North. Dawn Thewlis joins me shortly with weekend sports news. Also, still to come, how this man's painstaking research finally led to the discovery of his father's grave in Sicily.
And some sunshine to start the weekend, but it turns increasingly wet and windy. I'll have all the details later in the programme.
Now, good quiz question this. Who is Sunderland's only Oscar winner? I'll give you a clue. He's not an actor. Well, not anymore anyway. David Parfitt was a child star in the 1970s in the ITV sitcom And Mother Makes Three. He won the top prize in showbiz when he became a film producer. And next week, he brings a stage show to the region. The Wipers Times, co-written by someone who's maybe a bit more of a recognisable face.
Certainly very hot for the time of year. Fritz's love tokens do seem to be appearing with disturbing accuracy.
That's how we know the artillery's not our own, sir.
Yes, thank you, Sergeant.
It's a true story from the First World War and how morale in trenches was boosted by the circulation of a satirical newspaper. Perfect material for the man who's been editing one of his own for more than 30 years. You will, of course, have heard of Private Eye, but you might not know too much about the Wipers Times.
It's a sort of odd link-up, isn't it, them and us, and finding a paper that essentially did what we do now 100 years ago, except better, let's be honest, was just extraordinary. And we were determined to get this vision of the First World War onto the stage.
But have you seen the state of the roads out there, Lieutenant? Quite appalling, full of enormous holes. I'm going to have to complain to the Ypres Town Council.
How difficult is it to get that balance between the humour and, of course, the grimness of war?
Essentially, the humour comes out of the grimness. It was an escape mechanism in some ways, but it was also, I think, a rather heroic act of defiance to say, no, we won't be cowed.
The man who's brought this remarkable story to the stage is a one-time Sunderland schoolboy who left home at 14 to find fame on TV with County Durham-born actress Wendy Craig. But David Parfitt's life took a different turn when he moved into production. It led him all the way to Hollywood.
Well, in the nominations for this year's Oscars, Shakespeare in Love has 13, 2 more than the American film Saving Private Ryan.
We thought it was a sort of backstage comedy that might appeal to actors and other people in the profession, and I honestly didn't think that it would go that wide. A genuine surprise, and the Oscar was the biggest surprise of all.
Were you there for the ceremony?
No, I picked it up and I did my speech.
And where is it now?
It's in the breakfast room at our house. Not in the loo. It's not propping open a door or anything like that. No, it has a shelf.
Wipers Times is at Northern Stage in Newcastle all next week, and Wearside's Oscar winner heads home to his native northeast just as Sunderland submits its final bid to be UK City of Culture in 2021. For someone who spent a lifetime in the arts, David knows just what a difference winning the title would make.
Culture is important to every city, every town. Wherever you put culture, towns do better. You know, it just is a fact. People want to see stuff, they want to be part of it. It is hugely important. Look what it's done for Hull. I don't think you can overestimate what it would do for the city.
Well, staying with the wartime theme, after years of painstaking research, a man from Northumberland has discovered where his father was buried during the Second World War. Eddie Graham was killed in Sicily in 1943. He was buried in a grave with a headstone marked Unknown Soldier. Well, his son, also called Edward, was a baby when his father died. Well, Edward Jr. and his brother will be at a rededication ceremony at their father's grave on the island next week. Jonathan Swingler has the story.
Oh, he was our absolute hero, and they were obviously very much in love. Sadly, they didn't have a long marriage, like a lot of other people in wartime. It was tragically cut short.
Eddie's mother told him all about his father. He was less than a month old when his dad was killed during a German ambush in Sicily during World War II. Because of the confusion of war, they never knew where he was buried. Eddie got help with research and found definitive paperwork that his father was in a grave for an unknown soldier.
When you had that information, you think, we've got an answer here, how did you feel?
Oh, you know, sort of like went whoopee or something like that, because that was the missing link. That was the key to the whole thing. And that was enabled us to then petition the MOD and Commonwealth War Graves.
Next week, he's off to Sicily. His father's name is now on the grave, and he and his brother will get to see it at a rededication ceremony.
How important was it for you to know exactly where your father was buried?
I think it's probably similar to people who spent many years looking for long-lost relatives, you know, doing genealogy, things like that. It gives you the answer to a question that's always there. You know, sometimes at the back of your mind, but it's always there. For me, it will be a great source of comfort to know that my father is resting with his comrades who fell alongside him. It'll be a great source of comfort because it's a very pretty place, a very beautiful place. I think it'll be, I've completed the circle and bring closure.
He's looking forward to the journey. It's been a 74-year wait. Jonathan Swingler, BBC Look North.
Amazing story as well, wasn't it?
Truly
really
touching.
nice. OK, time for sport now. Football first. It's a bit hit and miss for our teams at the moment.
You can say that again. Yes, you can, absolutely. Well, this weekend, two of our football managers face former clubs where they've previously enjoyed great success. Under pressure, Sunderland boss Simon Grayson desperately needs a win against high-flying Preston to get the Blackcats out of the Championship relegation zone. And Rafa Benitez knows his Newcastle side face a pretty tough task against a Liverpool team with one of the most potent attacks in the Premier League.
They love him on Tyneside, but Rafa Benitez is absolutely revered on Merseyside as the man who guided Liverpool to FA Cup and Champions League glory. It was partly the similarity between the clubs and the cities which persuaded Benitez to stay at St James's, and he's looking forward to hosting Sunday's game.
Yeah, obviously it's a special game for me. It will be emotional because so many years, so many good memories. Still, my family is living in Liverpool, so it's my home, but at the same time we will try our best and we will try to win.
There's genuine respect and admiration between Benitez and current Liverpool boss Jurgen Klopp, but while the Merseysiders' attacking prowess is undeniable, it's often at the expense of their defence, which the Magpies need to exploit. So could John Joe Shelvey be the answer?
You have to find the balance between your attack and your defence. You know that John Joe is a great player, so he will have a chance for sure that he can impress. I don't know if he's from the beginning in this game or maybe another one. Don't give any clue to Jurgen. But yeah, he's an important player for us.
While Benitez will be applauded by fans from both sides, Sunderland boss Simon Grayson can't be sure of the same reception when he returns to Preston, who are now fifth in the table. After guiding them to promotion from League One and establishing them in the Championship, he left to join the Black Cats, who are struggling in the relegation zone. But he doesn't regret his decision to move to the Stadium of Light.
No, I've lived my life without any regrets, and I would have had regrets if I'd not taken this job. Of course, I'd like to be in a different position where we are. I'd like to be swapping positions with a lot of other teams. So, but ultimately, no, I've got no regrets. Confidence in this group that I've got. We'll get further up the table. Confidence in my ability that we'll do the same.
So, while Middlesbrough boss Gary Monk maintains his side were unlucky to lose their unbeaten home record and top six place against a well-organised Norwich side in midweek. The Canaries scored early at the Riverside and then held on as Borough spurned several good chances. The second of back-to-back games at the Riverside is tomorrow with lowly Brentford the visitors. So, a chance to bounce back.
You have to realise what you need to do to improve and go better, but you also have to get ready for that next game, and we have another game in a short period of time after the Norwich game. We want to try and put that right, and yeah, we were 7 games unbeaten before the Norwich game. If we can go another 7 games now and get that reaction with this first game against Brentford, and then that'd be some way to make an amends for it.
Well, elsewhere, National League side Leyton Orient have signed Carlisle centre-half Mark Ellis on a 2-month loan deal. The Blues are at Crawley tomorrow, hoping to get back to winning ways. And there's plenty of action in the third qualifying round of the FA Cup as well. The pick of the ties, Vars winners South Shields versus FA trophy holders York City. And there's plenty going on in both codes of rugby as well. Tonight, in Rugby Union's Premiership, 4th placed Newcastle Falcons host second bottom London Irish. Then on Sunday, it's the big playoff final between Cumbrian rivals Barrow and Whitehaven for the right to play Championship Rugby League next season.
At 25, Carl Forster is still one of the youngest head coaches in British professional sport. And if all goes well in Whitehaven's League One playoff final away in South Cumbria on Sunday, he'll mark the end of his first year in charge with promotion.
This club deserves to be in the Championship, playing against the bigger clubs of Rugby League. So, yeah, it was always our plan to try and go straight back up after being relegated last year, and we didn't want to be in this league, for too long. No disrespect to it, we've obviously we couldn't have come close to it regardless of the result on Sunday. But if it isn't to be, we'll regroup. We'll do it again next year, but touch wood, we'll go up first time asking.
In Rugby Union's Premiership, Newcastle Falcons chalked up their third win of the season at Bath, spurning a 19 points lead before coming back to win a thrilling game by 33 points to 32, leaving the players delighted.
I think the way that we came back in years gone by, we would have probably just faltered and lost the game, but to come back the way we did, especially against a team like Bath, was very good work.
The Falcons, 4th in the early season table, host London Irish tonight, with nothing being taken for granted.
We've got our feet on the ground, all right? The challenge now is to make sure that when we get the opportunities that we have in games to finish the game off, to win the game, that we do so. We're 4 games in, we're sat nicely in the table. There's a lot of games and a lot of rugby to be played yet. We can continue to go up in the table, or we can struggle. And I say the challenge is to make sure that we keep on going up.
Mark Tulip, BBC Look North.
Should be a good one at Kingston Park tonight. Now, there's a big fight night in prospect for 2 of the region's leading boxers tomorrow. Ex-Darlington Rufus Stewie Hall's in Liverpool to take on Paul Butler, the man who took his IBF world title off him 3 years ago. A WBA World Bantamweight title fight is the prize for the winner. Meanwhile, West Rainton's Martin Ward hopes to win a European title in Hartlepool. Now, there's been major success for Army veterans from our region competing in the Invictus Games in Toronto in Canada. So far, 3 have picked up silver medals, with more hoping to add to the tally. Nisha Joshi rounds up all the action.
The Invictus Games has become a major event in the sporting calendar since it was set up in 2014, giving injured servicemen and women the opportunity to compete on the world stage. Among the UK successes has been the silver medal winning wheelchair rugby team featuring Paul Nicol, who's originally from Ashington, and Nav Navalinakoro, who lives close to Catterick. Both Paul and Nav were also part of the UK sitting volleyball team, who won silver after being beaten in the final by Georgia.
I'm very proud, but it would be nice to have a gold medal, but Georgia come out with gold, they come out with a win, they deserve it more than us.
Meanwhile, there was also a silver medal for Ian Ronald from Sunderland in the indoor rowing. In the pool, both David Wiseman from York and Luke Reeson from Cockermouth flew through their heats, and they're both in great positions to win medals in the finals this evening. Nisha Joshi, BBC Look North.
And good luck to all of them. Well, finally, at the halfway mark in the British Masters Golf at Close House in Northumberland, there's an Englishman at the top of the leaderboard. Tyrrell Hatton from High Wycombe in Buckinghamshire is 12 under par after the first 2 rounds. He has a 3-shot lead over a cluster of rivals, including Lee Westwood, the Close House professional who's hosting the competition.
Should be a good finish.
Yeah, I mean, glorious weather yesterday.
It was, you were up there, weren't you?
Lots of showers and wind today, so it's been a bit trickier for the golfers.
Hit and miss. So the big question is, especially for those of you going up to watch the golf over the weekend, what's the weather going to be like? Alina Jenkins can tell us. Alina.
Hello there, Jeff. It's very much a weekend of 2 halves. Some sunshine to start, then turning increasingly wet and windy. The reverse has been true today, almost, because we started off fairly wet. This band of rain You can see here with the cloud pushing its way eastwards, and behind it we've had some sunshine, but we're keeping an eye on what's happening in the Atlantic, because all of this is coming our way as we head towards the latter half of the weekend. But once that rain cleared, we saw some lovely spells of sunshine through the afternoon. Really hard to choose the weather watchers this evening. This is from Alistair and Saltburn by the Sea. We had a little bit more cloud across Cumbria, producing a few showers, but many places did manage to catch some sunshine this afternoon. And there'll be a few showers around this evening, especially across Cumbria, still on the sharp side in the short term. A few of those just filtering their way further eastwards, but by and large, many places will be mostly dry overnight. Clear spells, a chillier night than the one just gone, 8 or 9 Celsius in town, but perhaps down to 4 or 5 Celsius in more rural spots. So we start tomorrow on a fresh sunny note, but this system out to the west will be approaching all the while, and that will increase the cloud through the day, and through the latter half of the weekend it will start to strengthen the winds as well. But a mainly dry start to the day tomorrow, some sunshine, a chilly start in places. The cloud will tend to build through the day, and yes, again, there's a chance of a few showers, but many places dry, and I'm hopeful that for the Gulf that it should be mainly dry in the afternoon. But a fresher feel tomorrow, 15, maybe 16 Celsius, and the winds just starting to strengthen towards the end of the day. And that process will continue as we go through the evening and tomorrow night. The cloud will thicken. We'll see some heavy outbreaks of rain, particularly over the hills of Cumbria, and that will slowly push its way eastwards. The winds will be strengthening as well as we go into Sunday morning. But look at the temperatures. They'll be up again, 11 or 12 Celsius, the low on Sunday morning. But we do have a yellow warning from the Met Office for both rain and wind. Now, rain is the first thing that we're concerned about, and this is overnight as we go into Sunday. Some of that rain is likely to be heavy, and that comes courtesy of this warm front here. Now, as that clears away eastwards, behind it then we have a cold front, and that arrives later on Sunday, and that's where we see the strongest winds. So there's two things to watch through Sunday. It will certainly be quite a wet day for many. Some heavy outbreaks of rain, particularly, as I mentioned, over the hills of Cumbria. What we'll find is that through the afternoon, it will just start to clear away eastwards to leave something brighter, but increasingly windy, and it's later on Sunday, as I mentioned, and into Monday that we start to see these strongest winds, likely to touch gale force along the coast and over the hills. 17 or 18 Celsius the high on Sunday. May not feel that way given the strength of the wind and the rain. And it looks like the strongest winds will be through the early hours of Monday morning. That yellow warning from the Met Office still in force, and it will feel much fresher as we go into next week. But eventually things do start to calm down. So yes, some very wet and windy later on Sunday and into Monday, but behind that something drier, brighter, and slowly the winds will start to ease down. Dawn and Jeff, back to you.
OK, Helena, thank you very much. I am so glad I cut my grass last weekend when I got the chance this weekend. That's it. Whatever you're doing, have a good one, and we'll see you back here at 6:30 on Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.